I'm gonna burp.
Uh-oh.
Oh, good to go. At least it wasn't puke. I promise nothing. Sometimes projectile. What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, here with my boy, Mark Bell.
Hey!
In front of the big ST. We are at Super Training in Sacramento, and he is gonna teach me how to deadlift because last time I was in Sacramento, I spent some time deadlifting. You came over for a little bit and you're like, buddy, you're gonna hurt yourself. I want you to be able to walk in your order. So I figured now that we got a little bit of time, and
Back was getting a little soft.
Since we haven't done anything yet today, we figured we'd do some deadlifting. You'd coach me through it, and we'll see if we can do some stuff.
Yep.
Right on?
Keep it real simple, you know, just to start out. Obviously, you know some of the general rules, but
sure,
just to fill everybody in.
Absolutely.
On what we're looking for. Real simple thing with a deadlift is we're just going to try to keep our back flat. And it's try. We're going to try to keep our back flat. As the weight gets heavier, your back is going to tend to round, and also you're going to notice from some of the top lifters in the world, they may even start the lift rounded. But what I'm usually looking for in the case of the deadlift is to see that we're not rounding any further. So if you round a little bit or start rounded, that's all the rounding that you get. Because if we continue to round more and more and more, we're going to get hurt. So we want to try to keep the back flat. We want to try to get our hips lower than our shoulders, which I'll show you in just a second. And we also want to try to keep our stomach tight. And rule number 4, which everybody knows what rule number 4 is, don't your pants. But probably the hardest. Did you mess up already? Let's start over, take 2. So just real simple, bracing your stomach. I mean, we can get as complicated as we want with this. A lot of people have made a lot of great videos on bracing your stomach. I always just say try to keep your stomach tight. You can refer to people like Chris Duffin and people like that. Kelly Starrett talks a lot about bracing your core, bracing your stomach. But just to try to keep it really, really simple is you're trying to keep your stomach tight, just as if someone's going to come up and give you a whack on the stomach, right?
Your hands got really wet.
Yeah, it did.
You're welcome.
A little soppy.
You can sell that in some countries.
From the way I like to teach a deadlift, whether it's a sumo deadlift or a conventional deadlift, and the way I like to teach all of the big 3 lifts, bench, squat, deadlift, is to utilize the bar to get ourselves in position. So I usually just will bend from the hips, not really trying to squat down that much, just trying to shove my butt back, almost like an RDL, a stiff leg deadlift type thing. And I'm going to grab the bar. I'm going to use the bar to help get me in position. I don't really get in great position, but I can get in halfway decent position by pulling on the bar. So I'll pull the slack, kind of hear that stuff going on there. We want to get that noise out of the bar. So we pull on the bar, and then we wait until we're in a good solid position, then we go. That one wasn't great, so rep number 1, try to get myself down a little lower. I'm going to try to get some air. It's easier. Some people get their air at the top. This is the easiest place to get your air, but sometimes you feel like you're going to pass out if it takes you a minute to set up. So I usually get my air down here. When I'm like this, even with my belt on, this is comfortable for me to get air here, and I'll go, and then I go through.
Now, if you said that you were going to try to get a little bit lower on your second rep, did you just mean drop your hips a little bit?
Yeah, just drop
your back a little flatter?
Yep.
Right on.
So we'll have Brian come up here and watch as he goes. We're going to kind of see, you know, where his hips are. We're going to see where his feet are. We're going to kind of take a good peek at just about everything here. But you notice the hips are lower than the shoulders, so we're on point with that. The back is flat. We're on point with that. Now he can just drive his legs through the floor like he's doing a leg press, and then flex the butt. Brian mentioned something interesting on the overhead press. He said, you know, you can protect your lower back by flexing your butt, and I've been teaching that on the deadlift for a really long time. I don't think anybody ever listens to me, but if you're engaging your butt, using your butt, or at least just even thinking about it, will make a bigger difference than not thinking about it at all. Obviously, you're not going to be able to flex your butt from here because you're in a position where your butt is stretched out.
Yeah, it doesn't really fire there.
You like it stretched out?
I'm not saying I don't.
So you get down in position here, and then once the weight gets to about here, we're going to flex the butt, drive the hips forward, and flex the quads at the same time, getting us to the locked out position. But if you're not flexing your butt or not paying attention to it, a lot of times you have a tendency to kind of keep going here because your butt is not engaged in the lift anymore, and you continue to round over. So keep your butt ready to go and flex hard and drive the hips forward.
So for some people who are having trouble even at lockout, it could be that their butt is just not engaged.
Yep, it could be
like
their
they're
butt.
just weak.
It could also be their head. you know, your head's got a certain amount of weight to it as well. So sometimes I'll see people, they'll kind of, the main thing is usually coming from their butt, because their legs will straighten out too early. But they'll kind of go here and their legs are starting to get straight too early and the weight's out in front of them. But look at how much of my upper body is over the bar right here. Right. And so now it's going to be hard for me to switch all that around. One way to remedy that, try to get your face and your body back behind the bar a little bit. We also, on a conventional pull, we want to intentionally drive the knees forward of the barbell slightly. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Drive the knees forward of the barbell just a little bit, drive through the floor really hard, and drive your head back behind the bar. It doesn't have to really be up, although you could go up a little bit, but you want to drive your face back behind the bar. So,
what do you mean your face back in setup? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Will you explain that a little more?
Yeah, so
I don't know this.
Yeah, so at the bottom of the lift, now you can overdo this, but for the most, many lifters are going to be too tight to be able to drop their hips too low, although I do see that sometimes. You want to try to figure out a way to get your head and shoulders and stuff at least kind of like even with the bar. So you're trying to pull your hips down, trying to get the back flat, tuck the chin in, and kind of just wait until your face is not going to be behind the bar. I mean,
sure, but
like
a ninja, right?
But you are trying to get it back more than where you start. So,
and you're okay with the shins being a little bit, or your knees being a little bit over?
Yeah, you want your knees over.
Yep.
You want your knees to come forward to the barbell.
Okay.
You want your knees forward, and you want to try to drag your head back. And just as your head starts to drift back, it's a perfect time to rip those weights off the ground. Drive the hips forward.
Hold on, let me try that.
You'll feel the weight float a little bit.
Right.
But it's more of a cue than it is a physical thing.
So in here, am I thinking almost like packing my chin, like chin back?
That's right. Yeah.
You do feel more upright. You do.
It's really weird. It feels like the weight is being like lifted for you.
Yeah, right there.
The weight will float a little bit too.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because a lot of times when I do deadlift, I feel almost, for lack of better terms, it feels like this. You know what I mean?
I do
but
that all the time.
that feels straight.
Yep. Hopefully you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. Do one more rep.
That's ridiculous.
Do one more rep and watch like his head gets closer to the barbell. His head is getting closer to the barbell. So back behind the bar, maybe that's too much of an exaggeration on my part, but like.
But that's what I'm thinking.
Get your head back towards like your feet, you know. Or
like I pulled the slack out, and then here I'm just thinking like.
Yeah.
Like giving myself a double chin.
Well, what about Belkin? Yuri Belkin goes like this on his sumo ball. I can't mimic Yuri Belkin, but he's like, when he's at the top of this deadlift, he's like this. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, his starting position is pretty upright too, but he's back here, and I think a lot of it is just about him trying to think about how do I just get rid of this extra weight on the bar.
Right.
And one way to get rid of it is just to sit in here and be like more upright, you know.
That's such a good. I've never heard that like head back tip before.
Only here at Super Training Gym, buddy.
That's pretty good, man. Literally, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. People don't know what they're doing out there. That's what's
going on.
That's what's going on out there. Yeah, there you go.
That's incredible. When you're doing your head position, do you care that much about whether it's like down or up, or do you just not want people craning down here?
I think kind of the truth is like the more like stuck together you are, the more you're like us, probably the more likely you need to probably pick your head up a little bit more. And then someone who is newer, who's not as developed, who's maybe has better mobility, they move a little bit better. They want to try to keep their head down, because a lot of times I'll see a lot of lifters will overextend, but like he and I, we're not going to have the ability to.
No.
Our body's not going to want to move that way. But in general, you want a neutral spine. So you want your neck to be in alignment with your back. And you know, if you just simply turn your hat backwards, and my neck doesn't move great, but like you don't want like this position here where your hat is kind of pushing back on your traps and stuff like that. So you want to try to keep that neck really straight, and a good way to do it is just to kind of be in here. And you'll see people do some deviations with their chin and stuff, and it's usually with the heavier weights, but it's really not helping do what they're really trying to do. All they're really trying to do is keep a neutral spine, and they're really just trying to figure out a way to kind of keep their thoracic spine from rounding. And so they're like, oh, I'm getting like this, and then they stick their head up more. And it's just things actually get a lot worse from there. It's almost like the knees in on the squat. Like, I don't really have a problem with people's knees coming in on a squat too much, but it's not something that is typically going to be beneficial. You know, it doesn't look like a strong position. Like, this doesn't look like a strong position, right? So even when we're doing a sumo pull, we want to be stacked out here. You mentioned being stacked when you're doing your overhead presses. It's kind of the same thing here on the deadlift.
But giving up a little bit of real estate at the beginning oftentimes can get stuff moving.
That's right.
It's just you can't give up so much real estate that you can't get it back. Like you said, some guys will start their pull rounded.
You don't want it to get worse.
Yes.
You know,
but there's a lot of people who, if you tell them to pull with a perfectly flat back, they can't break the floor with anything. Right. And they need to get a little bit of...
Yeah.
Like, will you talk a little bit about that? There's some people who are like form Nazis and like, if you break form whatsoever, no bueno. But like, I'm like... You almost, I mean, you want good form. You're always should have good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to promote bad form, but like you need to get a little bit weird at times.
Forcing things that aren't there or aren't that natural to you is not a good idea. So if somebody is really, really overweight, it'd be very simple to say, hey, I got a great plan for you. We're just not going to eat. And it would actually work. You said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do like a 10-day fast. I'm going to make sure you're okay, make sure you have enough electrolytes. We're going to do bone broth. We're going to do this, like, set them up with some tricks. But they're not going to really be able to do that. And if they were able to do it, it's not going to be anything that's sustainable. Yeah. In here, we're looking for stuff that's sustainable as well. We're looking for stuff like, what is something that we can actually do? What is something that we can replicate? So if somebody bends over to just the bar with a 45-pound plate on it, and they're kind of starting rounded, but they can pull 500 pounds, I would just say, hey, let's work on finding a better position anyway, because that position at the bottom is still right. And also, with that being said, as a coach, recognize that everyone does look a little different.
Yes.
So what you're observing as being position may just be a little bit unique to them, but I would just raise them up a little bit. I would just put a couple mats underneath there and say, hey, look, you know, I want you to, just like when you came in and you had trouble getting depth on your squat, we were able to work on that. Now you have better depth on your squat. You can squat properly with just the bar. A lot of times some of us need like weight to get us down. That's not great. That's not good movement patterns. That's not anything that's going to be healthy or sustainable for a long time. I've been doing this for 30 years, and so I have a good understanding of what it looks like to try to keep everything all together for a long time.
I find that with some of my athletes, one of my biggest challenges coaching people is stopping them from unraveling. Like the weight, they get that resistance and they get a little bit of fight against it, but then it unravels them to the point where their body stops and then the weight leaves, right? But like, it doesn't always mean it's in the best position when that weight leaves. So like, do you mainly just try to keep pushing tightness, or how long? I know this completely changed the video, but I like where it's going. So when you coach someone that's having that problem, do you allow them to keep continually adding weight? Because like, I don't like to like shut people down and be like, hey. But at the same time,
I think like there's a time and place for everything, and it's good in life in general just to recognize, like, we got time. You know, like we got some time for this. Like, now if someone's coming in for like a one-off training session, they're super pumped up to lift with you, and they kind of want to get a PR. It's a little bit different. Maybe do roll the dice, and that person does try that 455 pull, even though in the back of your head you're like, I don't know what this is going to look like. If they're hyped up, you crank some music, you get your team behind them, everyone's
You're there for a different purpose.
Yeah, it's kind of for a different reason. But if we're talking about progression and having something sustainable for a long period of time, we would like to try to calm everybody down a little bit and say, let's really work on this. Now, at the same time, you do just have to get after it too, right? Like, you do need to just train. So what I would say in that case is, like, let's say the person wants to go for 500 pounds and they did show you that they could lift 485 pretty good. They got a little rounded. They want to try that 500. If they don't have a meet coming up, that's a big deal too. If they have a competition coming up, then they can't try the 500 because you want to save that for game day. But if they want to try that 500 pounds, I say you let them do it. And you say, hey, look, when you're done with the 500 pounds, when you're done, smashing that big PR for today, we're going to go down to 225. And I want this to be a work in progress the entire time. The 500 was cool, it was sick, you got a PR, you're getting stronger. but let's also, in addition to working on getting stronger, let's work on getting better.
Yeah.
Let's figure out ways to move the weight. Like you've been moving weight for a long time.
Yeah.
You move the weights differently sometimes. Like sometimes
100%.
you're like, man, I don't know where I really pulled that out of my ass.
Yeah.
But it's because you're a veteran lifter. Sometimes you did it with explosiveness.
Yep.
Sometimes you did it with just brute strength. Sometimes you almost like out-willed it.
Yep. Yeah,
Where
you were
you're
just
like,
in the
I
right
don't even
mindset
know.
one day.
Yeah,
Like it was just there.
Yeah, like I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
So there's many different ways of doing this, but I think in the long run we're trying to find something that's sustainable, something we can do for a long time.
So maybe push till it gets a little weird, but then always drop back and make sure. I think finishing, making the last thing that you do, make sure that's good. Right. The last thing your body remembers is like good reps instead of like it's awesome to finish with that really big awesome pull, but like you don't want your body remembering. Yeah,
you can't lift like a. I mean, you're gonna have to get after. You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go heavy. And I have, my entire career. There's, many lifts that were not great, but I also knew how many. I knew how many of those I had.
Right.
I knew how many rounded over squats and deadlifts do you have?
Right.
Maybe not that many.
Right.
So like I knew for me, I could do one or two in a training session.
Right.
And I could do like one or two pretty bad ones in like a month. But then I also knew
It's such a funny way to look at it.
Yeah, in pro wrestling, this is where I learned a lot of this. You only have so many bumps. A bump is when you land on the mat. You only have so many bumps in your pocket, and you only have so many bump stamps on your bump card. And this is the same thing. It's like how many bumps and bruises can you really handle?
That's
and
so
no matter
true,
how
though.
tough you are, you can't really handle as many as you think. In addition to that, like I would go to Jesse Burdick, and he would be like, "How'd today go?" I was like, "Man." I was like, it didn't go great. He goes, another 2-weeker, huh? And I was like, yep. And a 2-weeker just meant like I took too many lifts where I rounded over a little bit too much, and I was going to be messed up for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I tell people, what's the cool thing about having that experience is there's people that come in here that get these injuries where they think it's debilitating. They think they're done. They're like, my back. They're like, I don't know what. I'm like,
I can't walk. I can't breathe.
I'm like, hey man, I think you just did like a 2-weeker. Like 2 weeks is a long time.
It is.
When you're in it, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, unfortunately, like it's gonna happen. You're going to get injured. Some of you guys are watching this right now, being like, why do these guys get hurt?
Because you're doing a sport where like you tear a little bit of muscle, you get progress. You tear a couple millimeters more, and you go to the hospital. Like that's the game.
That's a great way of putting it. Let's slap some more weight on here, huh?
Yeah,
While
let's do
we're
it.
talking about it. Get some Kalas.
What do you think of this sweat everywhere?
I think it's great. I think he's trying to give us all worms. I don't know how it works, but
I'm a sweaty individual. I wish I was less sweaty. Been sweaty since I was a kid.
hold on, do that again. I love this setup. This is like he's setting up for like a finishing move.
This isn't my real setup. My real setup's flashy.
Oh.
This is my half setup. I'm not giving my real one yet. But yeah, I set up like this.
I like it.
Yeah.
He's trying to sell the X sleeve for us right there. Look at that. Get the X sleeve forward.
Some product placement.
Yeah. There we go. Maybe just a little lower with the hips if you can sink them a little bit. Yeah, right there, yep. Good, now see if we can piece it together and have it go like all at once. There you go.
That felt good.
Yeah.
Are you pulling slack out when you do that?
Yep.
So you're using the bar to pull
Yeah.
your body into position. That's also pulling your back, and then you're hitting your head.
Kind of like you're just, doing like maybe you're trying to get like your RPMs up before you go, flying out.
Sure. Like going to a jog to a sprint instead of, right.
Exactly. Yep.
So to explain what I'm actually feeling here is when we're going down, a lot of people don't know what slack is. Slack literally is just like that noise,
Yep.
right? Now, is this deadlift bar?
Yep, it is. Yep.
So this, you're gonna get a little more bend. But basically a lot of people will jerk on the bar, and when you jerk on the bar, you get that up force, it yanks you back down, and then you pull back up, and then you start your pull, right? So to be more efficient, what he's trying to get me to do is when I sit, drop my hips a little bit more, and then tuck my chin, except that all in one motion. So the flex is coming out of the bar as my hips are going down and my neck is going back.
It's actually really hard to do too because I'm kind of telling them do two things that are like, they're almost a little opposite of each
It's
other.
like this thing.
Driving, yeah, it really is. Because you're driving your knees forward and you're trying to let your head drift back, and it's tough.
But you can already feel like, it feels like the bar is lighter, like it's floating. Like when it's light and I do a setup and like I'll get a little bit of that, but this actually feels the way that I think it's supposed to feel. Let me try it again. Felt good.
Totally remembered why that looks so familiar, your setup.
That feels good.
It's the rock. The rock sets up his rock bottom that way.
Does he?
Yeah.
How's he set it up?
Just like that. With that
Like this?
Yeah.
Great
yeah,
minds,
that-
dude. Great minds.
That's amazing.
This is good.
I'll do some reps. Why not?
It's bad when you sweat
can't
through your
just sit-
hat and the bill drips.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm through the. See how wet the bill is?
yeah.
It's impressive.
How'd you do that?
I got skills, Mark. If you want to learn them, I do personal training sessions. On sweating. I don't coach. I just do sweating.
Just sweat your face off.
Yeah. Good. Now you're in the camp. Once you're warm, do you try to move light things like they're heavy, heavy things like they're light?
Absolutely, yeah.
Me too, 100%. Like I do not understand moving things slowly.
Yeah, once I got some movement down here.
Yes, once your body doesn't have creaks anymore,
Yeah.
I sprint.
And I actually noticed too, like, the sooner I can do that in a workout, the better.
Yes.
So like if I just start on a squat and I start squatting the bar just kind of frantically, because I already warmed up, I already feel good, then I know I'm gonna have a great workout.
Yep.
I can feel it the whole time, you know. If I get underneath the bar and I start making faces and I'm like, you know, doing this, it's gonna be a rough go of it.
Yeah, but I stole from you. You used to on a bench workout. I saw one of your videos where you take bands and you'll do like rows really fast and you'll turn around. You do. I do that with I do it with everything, right? On this, I'll do it with good mornings to try to get my hips moving through supposedly, and just doing that takes your shoulders from like, or like your knees like to like actually being able to
Yeah.
move. Like we did that conditioning before we did this, and body doesn't feel creaky at all.
Right.
I don't feel weaker. Don't feel creaky.
It's a great like indication of like health is being able to like be explosive. You know, be
100%.
able to jump, be able to sprint.
Right.
You know, if you're 80 years old and you can sprint all out, you're probably way healthier than someone that can't, right?
1,000%.
And so I think when you're getting in here, you're trying to figure out how can I get myself to sprint.
Absolutely, 100%. To be honest, man, I probably got enough.
Good. All right, you want? All right.
The,
You want to throw in a couple hundreds and?
I'm down.
I'm just kidding.
I'm down.
I'm just kidding.
But I mean, we like
Yeah, that
there
feels
have
good.
been so many points that you've hit that
Yeah.
that my viewers haven't heard,
Cool.
that I haven't heard. So it's awesome.
Game over.
Game
All right.
over. All right.
Do you guys want to?
Yeah.
Kiss.
All right, so basic idea here, guys, is that I pretty much just got fed with a fire hose, and there's no more that I'm going to be able to take in without being able to apply it. And I'm not a big fan of getting a ton of information and not actually walking away with anything. So I'm going to take what I've learned, and I'm going to use it, right? And I know a lot of you, this is
I'm
the
gonna
stuff
put away
that-
my fire hose.
the whole idea here, guys, hopefully you guys heard some things today that you guys don't normally hear on my channel. So I thank you so much for doing this, man. It was
Appreciate
really,
it, man.
really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, had a lot of fun.
Guys, we'll catch up with you more videos. Yeah, sorry about all the wetness. I will catch you later in the week. Until I do go out something amazing in your lives. Keep working hard, people. Be nice to each other. We'll see you then.
Later.